Hey, good morning, everybody. Doug Pinter on Daily Energy with Jeff Bach. Good buddy. Bach, attorney at law. Happy Friday to you.
Morning, Doug. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I can't wait to talk a little criminal law. I got a question about someone that was doing U-turns out in front of this place and then parked right in front and got out and came in the studio and sat right there in that seat. Might still be there.
Who's after me? It must be that person, or before me. It was the podcast before me. That
Of course, don't give it away.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about criminal law. We have Tom Brady. He's got a jammed hand. BYU released some information this morning on juniors tackling and the head trauma. Their study shows kids starting after the age of 14 have a significantly less likelihood of having a brain injuries versus those that start younger, so we're going to cover a little bit about that. Cubs are making a few moves during the offseason. Then we got to talk about how your Wolverines finish up the NCAA season from a month or two ago, and then we got a little bit of the NBA. Cavs are trying to make a late charge coming into the All-Star break, and so on. So, Jeff, let's hop right into our Chicago Cubs. One, I got on the website this morning checking out the renovations, and are you familiar with what's going on up at Wrigley?
It looks beautiful. Very excited.
You're just giving me that 1,000-mile gaze right now.
No, I mean, I've seen the pictures. It's all going to be nice when it's done.
So they showed the hotel finally has some interior lights on. That looks unbelievable. And then they started removing some of the gloss from the exterior, revealing maybe some new ticket windows and in the concourse that they're redoing for drinks and beverages. Hopefully they add a few more bathrooms in there as well.
You know, I think we've talked about this. My wife actually has like a 10-game season ticket package she splits with other people. It's so far up that there's actually a secret bathroom up there, and right next to the secret bathroom is a stand that sells Polishes, hot dogs, beers, and peanuts. I mean, it's like,
what game are we going to?
well, I know, that's what I mean. All, Doug. I mean,
you hit it on the head for me. I need a bathroom within like 10 feet.
And it's secret too. I've never had to wait in the line.
That's wonderful.
Never had to wait in the line. Unbelievable.
No Wilson Contreras. It might end up being Victor Caratini. Have you heard about this young prospect coming up through the minors? They say his numbers are staggering. In 2017, had 6 runs, 15 hits, a home run, batted .333 down in the minors. I understand that's down in the minors, but they're saying he might be the next big thing coming through the Cubs organization.
As usual, Doug, I wasn't paying full attention, but did you say 15 hits or 15 homers?
15 hits.
15 hits. Okay.
Stick with me. One home run.
Wow. All right. So he had 15 more hits than you and I did in minor league ball last year. That's pretty impressive.
Well,
that's a lot.
He only played maybe a couple dozen games.
Right.
So, sorry, I'm not running quite how I usually do.
No,
my coffee machine wasn't working properly this morning.
Firing all cylinders usually in this. Yeah.
Yeah. So Contreras, he had some injuries last season. He had to sit out. So Victor, they're bringing him up out of the minors, working him into the rotation. Rizzo, you might remember when he stepped in for Rizzo at first base this past season. Rizzo was a late scratch, so they brought Victor up, and he hit a tie-breaking 2-run home run in that game. Cubs won 4-2 back in July, so we'll see if that can carry on into the season. Contreras says he is going to be better than Posey and Molina. Molina got word of that and fired back a few words about, hey, once you start setting some records, then maybe you can come talk to us. I do think Molina's got a case as well as Buster Posey. They're, in my opinion, 2 of the best catchers in baseball. And until you really start proving yourself in that league, it's okay to believe in yourself, but I don't know if it's okay to start calling out people that have set those records or paved the way.
I don't get why it's even a thing. I mean, obviously, if you say you want to be like those people are obviously really good, so it's a compliment to Posey and Molina. And what's a young guy going to get up there and say? I think I'm going to be terrible? I mean, like, I don't think I'm going to ever get to, like, the highest of the high. I mean, you want a guy that's cocky, right?
Well,
now, maybe you keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
You keep it to yourself. I guess those are things that maybe are better thought rather than said, but I don't understand it. It's just talk, you know?
Contreras, I don't think, has a filter from his high energy to putting a microphone in front of him. I understand it's admiration towards Molina and that, but he did say a few things that I think we're put Molina and Posey a little bit on the defensive side.
As I remind you every time, I'm actually a Cardinals fan, so if anybody should be mad, it'd be me. But I mean, again, I just don't see it. And what you just told me is that he's going to get replaced this year anyway. So
Well,
we won't have to worry
I
about
think
it.
it'll be a battle. I think Contreras will get some playing time, especially early in the season. But I do think around All-Star break they'll switch over to this Victor guy.
Okay, so he's probably going to have a better half season than Yachty, and then they'll go to this other guy, and that guy will have a better half season than Yachty, and the next guy up will have a better half season than Yachty. I mean,
And before long, Joe Maddon's behind the plate catching.
let's hope.
Hey, at the kids only press conference that the Chicago Cubs held, raised over $3 million, I believed. Some young lady asked Rizzo to be her Valentine. Not only was Rizzo her Valentine, but Chris Bryant, Baez, Schwarber, and Clark, the Bear,
Wow.
all became her Valentine.
That's
yes.
pretty awesome.
Stay tuned. We're just getting started on this show. Jeff Bach, attorney at law. Jeff, we were going to talk a little bit about some criminal activity and the law that you practice there. So let's just hypothetically say I were to get pulled over for doing a U-turn. I wanted to combat that. Let's say there were no U-turn signs or things of that nature. Do I have a case to give you a call and see if we can't get that dismissed? Or?
Oh, sure. When it comes to any traffic ticket, for the most part, it's not a complicated matter, just in the sense that it's usually, a police officer witnesses it. A lot of times when you're talking about some criminal activity, you're talking about something where a police officer doesn't necessarily see it. Somebody else sees it, they talk to the cop, whatever. For traffic tickets, it's usually just what did the police officer see, and if there's a police report, we can review that, see if there's any holes in it. What I can really offer you or your listeners here is, number one, convenience, making sure you're in and out of there as quickly as possible. Number two, you can get them on court supervision, meaning that as long as they comply with certain conditions, the main one is not violating the laws again for a certain period of time, usually 3 to 6 months, sometimes 12 months. That doesn't go on your insurance. As you probably know, when you have insurance, auto insurance, the insurance rates go up if you have tickets. So that's why it's really important to get on court supervision. And then with with maybe your heavier ones, what I've seen in the last 6 months, I've seen a couple speeding 25 overs, and that sounds really bad, but when you consider that right outside of Peoria it goes from 70 down to 55. Let's say you've got your cruise control at 81. Well, now you're in the 55 right when you get to that Sterling area. Now you're going 81 and a 55. Well, I mean, again, that's 25 over. That's too fast, but at the same time, it's also not like, wow, you were going,
Right.
You were going 55 in a 25 school zone or something, right? So you see those, and those are misdemeanors actually. You don't want to have that on your record for a lot of reasons, and we can make sure that a lot of times they'll bump it down to a petty, which is just a regular traffic ticket, a regular speeding ticket, and put you on court supervision. So it's kind of, number one, you don't have any record of a misdemeanor on your record, and then number two, if you do your court supervision, you don't even have a conviction for that speeding ticket on your record at all. So, if it's just a garden variety speeding ticket and you get those once every 5 years, you're honestly probably better off just to go down and pay $120 and be done with it. But if it's any kind of thing where you drive a decent amount, or where sometimes you like to drive a little bit faster because, let's be honest, it's more fun, or you like to do 3 U-turns in the span of like 30 seconds, hypothetically, all those reasons would be a good reason to at least call me and discuss. As you and I have talked about many times, if people call me, I'm never going to say, hey, come in and bring in a bunch of money to talk. We'll always talk over the phone. If it's something I can help you with, then that's great. If it's not something I can help you with, always happy just to talk it out with you and, to take a little bit of time out of the day.
I know you've helped someone that is a friend of mine. Recently, she got a traffic ticket that you were actually able to get thrown out because the police officer didn't have the proper things to support his case in giving her a ticket. It was to a point where she got a phone call saying she may lose her license, and then all of a sudden she was in contact with you, I think went to a hearing, got some paperwork where she needed to be. Not only was the ticket dropped, but also some other preventive measures were put in place for her long term. So, one, thank you for helping my friend, and two, and I saw firsthand, she was very discombobulated when she got this phone call and was a little distraught, and it's like, what do I do? Who do I turn to? She called you, and all of a sudden, the very next day, she's like, oh, this is a piece of cake, your buddy's got it. So what processes did you go through to help her?
You know, the number one thing is when something goes wrong and it's not really within your area of expertise, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, right? Because you don't know the process, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You know, when you have a leak in the house and all of a sudden, you know, water's everywhere, you know, once you clean.
Why you got to talk about
Well,
my house?
I was saying hypothetically my house. But anyway, you get the idea. When you're going through something you haven't gone through before, you don't have a real good handle on, what you really need is just to hear, number one, it's going to be all right, because it always is going to be all right. And number two, that, you know, there's a plan to how to handle this. And really that's what I do. You know, if I explained the conversations I had with people, I think most people listening to this would say, well, that's, you know, okay, genius, I could have done that on my own, but they just need to hear it from somebody who's been through it before to know that you're going to come out the other side of this and it's going to be fine. And again, if we're talking about traffic tickets with, you know, as long as you're not a habitual offender, with traffic tickets, it's always going to be fine.
Okay.
Now, again, you know, somebody can come in and prove me wrong about that. It could happen. But if you're just talking about, hey, I got a speeding ticket and I wasn't carrying my insurance card, what happens now? No problem. We'll get it taken care of, no big deal.
Well, I want to say thank you for taking care of my friend. She thanks you, I know. Hey, let's talk a little bit about your workout journey here, man. You've been coming into the club. You're working with one of the coaches. Can you just share, I know it's new year, new you type thing, but you've had this process in place since I've met you. I would see you on the bike path where you don't wave. You're probably one of the most unfriendly riders out there. You gave me you kind of waved that one time.
30, for heaven's sake. You know, you were going about 10 miles an hour. I mean, you just like appeared and almost
the hill you were going down, or vice versa.
No, but I think it was like a good 5 seconds after I saw you, my brain was like, hey, wait, that was better.
And I was only 5 yards away. But talk to me a little bit about your workout routine. I know we were talking, we got some nice weather coming up. You like to get outdoors and run?
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I both have the same experience where indoor cardio is just monotonous, you know?
It is.
I mean, you kind of need, I like to find, if I'm in a new place, I like to try to find a running route or someplace you can do. I mean, when you kind of know exactly how far everything is, and I think that's part of the problem with those cardio machines is when you can look down every 10 seconds and see, oh, God, I've only gone this far, you know? Versus, you know, when you're outside, it's kind of like, okay, I'm running through something new or doing something different. I really like it. But, you know, it's just really important because, as you probably know, you know, it's real easy to fall out of shape, right? And it's real hard to get back into shape. So it's kind of important to stick with it even when you don't want to because, again, you know, when you've been through being out of shape and getting back in shape, man, it's not fun.
No.
Staying in shape is not necessarily easy, but, you know, you can do it. Getting in shape, man, you just hurt all the time, and it's hard, and, you know.
It's 2 weeks of hell, isn't it?
I mean,
3 weeks,
if you're lucky, right? I mean, you know, when I started working with the coach, I kind of lifted upper body, you know, for a long time, but I let my lower body fall, like I hadn't really done lifting with my legs. Man, for the first 2 months, I mean, every time we would do leg day, my quads would ache. I mean, every time I was going upstairs, it like killed me. And, you know, now after.
You are a little whiny.
Well, of course.
You get a little whiny.
I would always call you and I'd be like, Doug, I'm going upstairs, it hurts. But no, I mean, once you get back in shape, it's really a good feeling to be in shape, and it's really a good feeling to stay in shape. And I mean, you know how it is. You get that endorphin release after a workout, you just feel good, like you accomplished something. Yeah, that too, man. Telling you, if you ever have, you know, something you're thinking about, you need a little, you know, kind of nudge in the right direction on, man, working out is always the best medicine for that because it really helps, you know, clear your mind up.
I kind of get lost in my own thoughts and sort out my days and things, plan for things coming up. I know you're a busy guy. You got your own law office here in town. Your wife is an attorney. You have a young son. And so you're a busy man on the go. If you got a tip for our listeners out there, what's one thing you would tell them in order to help them get started? What's one thing that worked for you, Jeff?
Well, I don't, you know, everybody's life is different, but I'll just tell you that, you know, when it comes to your health, like, you know, physical health and mental health, you know, you either make time for it, you know, on your time, you know, you either carve out a half hour every day or a half hour every other day, whatever you're comfortable with, or you eventually run into a time where you're forced to make time because you feel run down or, you know, you have a physical problem or you get super sick or something like that. And then, you know, you don't have a choice when it happens, right? And the other thing is, you know, your mental and physical health is kind of like the foundation of the pyramid. pyramid, right? You know, if you're mentally and physically healthy, it allows you to be able to be the person you want to be. You know, it allows you to be able to be a good family person, to take care of your wife and your son, allows you to, you know, run your law office in the way you want to because you have the energy to do it, you know, and you have the positive mental outlook that, you know, when you get in the office, it's not, oh God, another crushing day. It's more like you know, I'm here to accomplish something. Let's do it. And, you know, let's do it.
I think creating healthy habits to burn off stress and things of that nature goes a long way. I appreciate you giving a tip to all of our listeners out there. Let's switch gears again. We got Jeff Bach, attorney at law. We were just talking about if you have some minor traffic tickets, things of that nature, on what Jeff and his firm can do for you downtown here. I sent him a personal friend who you were able to help her get out of the ticket, and no harm, no foul. Let's talk a little bit about the NFL and the playoff games that we got coming up. We have Jags and Patriots. I think some people were surprised to see Jacksonville get out of that game against Atlanta. And then in the other game, we got Minnesota and Philly. So let's start with New England. Tom Brady has a press conference later today to address the media about his jammed hand from running into an offensive lineman. What's your take on Jags versus Patriots right out of the gate? You think who are you picking and why?
So, as you know, Doug, I'm really into fantasy football, and the guy, I follow a doctor who writes about the football beat. According to him, the most likely outcome for Brady is the injury he has probably should not affect him very much. If it's the injury he thinks it is, then it probably won't affect him very much. There's a chance it's going to be a worse injury, which would be very bad news. The long story short is, I mean, I don't think you can ever pick against the Patriots. I mean, Belichick is just they're so ruthless about they're not going to come out and run their schemes or their offense or their defense. They're going to find what you aren't good at, and they're going to go after it. And it turns out with the Jags, none of this is my analysis. I steal from everybody else shamelessly. But it turns out the Jags are really good against 3 wide receiver sets. And that's how they stop the pass. But if you run either 2 tight ends or 2 running backs out there, they get much worse. So Brady or Belichick will know that. And you watch tomorrow, there'll be either a lot more 2 tight end sets or a lot more 2 running back sets where Brady's in the shotgun and he's got 2 guys flanking him. Yeah. I don't think they'll run a lot of I form, and you don't ever see like pro set anymore. But I think it'll be a lot of shotgun with 2 running backs on either side. Or I think if they're under center, it'll be a double tight end ace formation.
I agree. I think the more I was researching on Jacksonville the last couple days, I mean, they can run sideline to sideline as fast as anybody else, and I